Всім добрий день. Шановні колеги, за київським часом 13 година, сьогодні 15 жовтня 2025 року, і згідно з постановою Кабінету міністрів України від 12 січня 2022 року, номер 44, та затвердженого нею порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення Спеціалізованої вченої ради, закладу вищої освіти, наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, а також наказом ректора Західноукраїнського національного університету номер 522 від 27 серпня 2025 року, на підставі рішення Вченої ради Західноукраїнського національного університету, протокол номер 9 від 27 серпня 2025 року, створено спеціалізовану вчену раду ДФ 58 082 083 Західноукраїнського національного університету з правом прийняття до розгляду та проведення разового захисту дисертації УЦІ на здобуття ступеня доктора філософії за спеціальністю 292 міжнародні економічні відносини, в галузі знань 29 міжнародні відносини. Згідно з порядком присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти, наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, а саме пункту 27, захист дисертації повинен мати характер відкритої наукової дискусії, в якій зобов'язані взяти участь здобувач, голова та всі члени разової ради. Під час атестації здобувачки члени разової ради повинні оцінити науковий рівень її дисертації та наукових публікацій з врахуванням дотриманням неї академічної доброчесності. Колеги, перевірка на доброчесність дисертації УЦІ виконана із використанням програми «Страйк-плагіаризм». Текст дисертації здобувачки за результатами перевірки на наявність академічного плагіату, фабрикування чи фальсифікування не містить запозичень без належного посилання на джерело, що відповідає критерію дотримання здобувачкою академічної доброчесності. У разі надходження до закладу звернень інших осіб з оцінкою дисертації, разова рада озвучує їх під час публічного захисту дисертації та з урахуванням результатів їх розгляду приймає відповідне рішення. Такі звернення вони беруться до розгляду у разі їх надходження не пізніше, ніж за 3 робочих дні до дня захисту дисертації. Колеги, я хочу повідомити, що звернень від інших осіб у встановлені терміни не поступало. Заклад забезпечує, в даному випадку Західноукраїнський національний університет, трансляцію захисту дисертації в режимі реального часу на офіційному веб-сайті ЗУНу, а також відеозапис трансляції захисту дисертації. Після прийняття разовою радою рішення про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, заклад протягом 3 робочих днів оприлюднює рішення разової ради про присудження ступеня доктора філософії та відеозапис трансляції захисту дисертації на офіційному веб-сайті ЗУНу з можливістю вільного перегляду. Шановні колеги, а зараз, будь ласка, заслухайте інформацію про нашу здобувачку. Отже, згідно з поданими документами, УЦІ народилася 2 серпня 1990 року, громадянка Китайської Народної Республіки. Після закінчення у 2018 році Санкт-Петербурзького політехнічного університету Петра Великого отримала диплом магістра за напрямом підготовки економіка. У 2021 році вступила до аспірантури Західноукраїнського національного університету за спеціальністю 292 міжнародні економічні відносини. Аспірантка успішно виконала освітню наукову програму та після завершення навчання за акредитованою освітньо-науковою програмою, термін навчання якої тривав з 1 листопада 2021 року по 31 жовтня 2025 року, здобувачка отримала академічну довідку за номером 109 та висновок наукового керівника, кандидата економічних наук, доцента кафедри міжнародних економічних відносин Західноукраїнського національного університету Гомотюк Вікторії Олександрівні, які представлені в атестаційній справі. УЦІ звернулася до структурного підрозділу із письмовою заявою щодо отримання висновку про наукову новизну, теоретичне та практичне значення результатів дисертації. Успішно пройшла публічну презентацію наукових результатів дисертації та її обговорення на фаховому засіданні кафедри міжнародних економічних відносин Західноукраїнського національного університету 25 серпня 2025 року. Маємо відповідний протокол номер 3. Результати обговорення та проведення презентації відображені у висновку про наукову новизну, теоретичне та практичне значення результатів дисертації з пропозицією щодо кандидатур складу разової спеціалізованої вченої ради із захисту дисертаційної роботи для здобуття ступеня доктора філософії. Здобувачка УЦІ звернулася до Вченої ради Західноукраїнського національного університету із письмовою заявою щодо утворення разової ради. За результатами розгляду заяви прийнято рішення Вченою радою, зокрема протокол номер 9 від 27 серпня 2025 року, та на його підставі видано наказ номер 522 від 27 серпня 2025 року про утворення відповідної разової спеціалізованої вченої ради для присудження ступеня доктора з філософії у складі 5 осіб – голови разової ради, 2 рецензентів та 2 опонентів. 27 серпня 2025 року оприлюднено електронну копію дисертації у форматі PDF з текстовим шаром і з накладеним електронним підписом здобувачки та інформацією про склад разової ради, а також є відповідне посилання на веб-сайт, де здійснюватиметься трансляція сьогоднішнього захисту дисертації. Подано друкований примірник дисертації, підписаний здобувачкою до бібліотеки закладу, також електронний примірник до Державної наукової установи УКР-ІНТІ, а також до локального репозитарію закладу. Інформацію про утворення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради подано до інформаційної системи НАЗЯВО 28 серпня 2025 року. Колеги, усі документи, які представлені до спеціалізованої вченої ради, оформлені відповідно до вимог чинного законодавства. Також рецензії рецензентів та відгуки опонентів були надані вчасно і вчасно розміщені в електронному вигляді на офіційному веб-сайті університету. Зокрема, це 29 вересня 2025 року. Повідомлення про дату, час і місце проведення публічного захисту дисертації УЦІ внесено до інформаційної системи НАЗЯВО у визначений положенням термін. Як результат, згідно з пунктів 13, 14, 17, 22 Постанови Кабінету міністрів України від 12 січня 2022 року, зокрема номер 44, про присудження порядку присудження ступеня доктора, про затвердження порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти, наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, до спеціалізованої вченої ради надійшли всі необхідні документи і матеріали. А зараз, шановні колеги, дозвольте представити членів нашої спеціалізованої вченої ради ДФ 58 082 083. Отже, рецензенти. Монастирський Григорій Леонардович, доктор економічних наук, професор кафедри менеджменту, публічного управління та персоналу Західноукраїнського національного університету. Дякуємо, Григорій Леонардович, за рецензії. Жуковська Аліна Юріївна, доктор економічних наук, доцент, професор кафедри менеджменту, публічного управління та персоналу Західноукраїнського національного університету. Дякуємо, Аліна Юріївна, за погодження рецензувати роботу. Опоненти. Хаджинов Ілля Васильович, доктор економічних наук, професор, ректор Донецького національного університету імені Василя Стуса. Дякуємо, Ілля Васильович, за погодження взяти участь в нашій разовій спеціалізованій вченій раді. Булатова Олена Валеріївна, доктор економічних наук, професор кафедри міжнародних фінансів Київського національного університету імені Тараса Шевченка. Дякуємо. Дякуємо, Олена Валеріївна, за погодження взяти участь в роботі нашої спеціалізованої вченої ради. Колеги, і я, голова ради, Зварич Роман Євгенович, доктор економічних наук, професор, завідувач кафедри міжнародних економічних відносин Західноукраїнського національного університету. Зараз, колеги, я прошу членів ради підтвердити свою присутність у реєстраційній картці присутності. Хочу сказати, що офіційно тут присутні рецензент Монастирський Григорій Леонардович. Григорій Леонардович, будь ласка, ваш підпис. Дякую. Рецензентка Жуковська Аліна Юрівна. Дякую. Дякую, Аліна Юрівна. Та я, голова ради, Зварич Роман Євгенович. Колеги, онлайн у нас присутні опонент Хаджинов Ілля Васильович та опонентка Булатова Олена Валеріївна. Колеги, я хотів би перевірити зв'язок. Ілля Васильович, чи чуєте ви нас?
Так, чую.
Дякую.
Сподіваюсь, ви теж мене
Олена
чуєте.
Валеріївна?
Все добре, дякую.
Дякую. Нам потрібно підтвердити за свою присутність підписами, і я прошу дати дозвіл офіційного опонента Хаджинова Іллю Васильовича підтвердити його присутність підписом голови ради. Чи даєте ви такий дозвіл?
Так, дякую.
Дякую.
Так само, будь ласка, підпишіть
Пане
за
Валерію,
мене.
ви даєте
Дякую.
дозвіл, так? Дякую. Дякую. Отже, колеги, ми в реєстраційній картці я підписав як голова ради, але ми вказуємо режим зв'язку Zoom і відповідний є підпис голови ради. Дякую вам. За реєстраційною карткою з 5 членів спеціалізованої вченої ради присутні на засіданні 5 членів ради. З них докторів наук зі спеціальностями, за якими підготовлена дисертація. 3. Отже, засідання вченої ради правочинне, і є пропозиція розпочати безпосередньо вже наше засідання. Колеги, чи є інша пропозиція? Немає, так? Немає. Тоді дякую. Всі члени ради погоджуються розпочати засідання нашої ради. Отже, на порядку денному захист дисертації УЦІ на тему «Економічна нерівність КНР як імператив формування соціальної стратифікації населення», поданої на здобуття ступеня доктора філософії за спеціальністю 2.9.2 «Міжнародні економічні відносини», галузі знань 2.9 «Міжнародні відносини». Чи є пропозиції щодо порядку денного? Немає. Дякую, немає. Оскільки інших пропозицій немає, то пропоную проголосувати за затвердження порядку денного підняттям руки. Колеги, хто за? Проти? Утримались? Немає одноголосно. Згідно з порядком присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, засідання ради проводиться англійською мовою. Хочу сказати, що зі здобувачкою була погоджена мова захисту англійська. Чи є в членів ради заперечення? Немає. Здобувач, чи підтверджуєте ви, щоб захист проходив англійською мовою? Так? Так. Так, дякую. Отже, мова засідання буде англійська. Dear colleagues, according to the agenda, I give the floor to the applicant for presentation the main provisions of the dissertation. There is a proposal to set a time limit for the applicant's presentation of 15 minutes. Do you have any objections? No one? Okay, please. Uzi, you have the floor. Welcome.
Hello. Economic inequality in the PRC has emerged as a critical imperative shaping the social stratification of its population and rapid economic growth, opposition, and market-oriented reforms. This inequality access to education, healthcare, and social mobility, investigating the interplay between economic inequality and social stratification is particularly given Chinese scores of a ranking combined rating and navigating global challenges such as transitions, technological distributions, and post-COVID recovery, revisiting economic inequality as an imperative for the formation and social stratification in the PRC is highly relevant, considering its profound impact on society's stability, practical legitimacy, and sustainable development. Our research aims to bridge theoretical worlds and practical dimensions, informing strategies that promote upward mobility and reduce polarization. The purpose of the dissertation is to comprehensively examine the impact of economic inequality in the PRC on the formation and transformation of social stratification, to identify its structural mechanisms and consequences for social stability, and to develop strategic recommendations aimed at reduce disparities and fostering inclusive social-economic development. Based on the purpose of the research, certain objectives were set in the dissertation, which helped to research inequality and the social stratification of population in the PRC, developing a conceptual model to reduce economic inequality, elaborating the mechanism for inclusive economic development, and proposing roadmap for strategic reforms to reduce stratification in Chinese society. It is further developed the conceptual and methodological approaches to the study of economic inequality, analysis of the key economic theories that explain the origins and perceptions of inequality, research of indicators and indices for measure inequality as essential instruments for empirical research. Economic inequality is a complex issue reflecting difference in income, wealth, opportunities, and economic conditions. Economic theories shed light on the causes of inequality. Each theory identifies different factors contributing to disparities, measure economic inequalities through various indicators, offers sanity into resource distribution. By using mitigating measures, researchers and policymakers can better understand inequality, leading to targeted interventions for equitable growth. As data collection and analytical methods involve, new approaches will further enhance our ability to measure and address economic inequality effectively. It is further developed the theoretical approaches to social stratification in the context of economic inequality, established cultural mechanisms linking economic inequality and stratification, researched social mobility and barriers to upward movement is stratified societies caused by secular and cultural factors. Socialists reduced income gaps but had other disparities, while post-socialist shift increased inequality through privatization and worker safety nets. Social stratification theories reveal how inequality is studied. Integrating these views help understand health shares and poverty inequality. Stratification creates barriers like unequal education access and birth, reinforcing disadvantage. Addressing this need is to holistic approaches targeting those medical conditions and structural health shares. Systemic barriers in stratified societies reflect in disparities in education, healthcare and job handle mobility and working social cohesion. It is further developed stratification and structural determinants of inequality in the PRC, asserted the role of the globalization and the creation of Chinese stratification, described regional disparities and governmental policies of balanced development in the PRC. Since 1978, Chinese reformers have driven rapid growth and poverty reduction, making it a global economic power. However, income and wealth gaps, especially rural-urban, have widened. In response, policies like common prosperity aim to reduce inequality. The whole system depends in access to services and jobs. Reformer keen to equality, disparity service improvement, structural inequalities presents, limiting mobility and regional disparities remain deep-rooted, even with effort like to the Go West campaign. Campaign prosperity reflects a commitment to inclusive, sustainable growth. It is further developed the analysis of dynamic and structure of income and wealth inequality in the PRC, evaluated poverty reduction programs and their effect on inequality in the PRC. The rural-urban income gap reflects economic priorities and geographic imbalances, empowering rural communities to enter in Chinese digital and create strategies in vital for inclusive development. The concentration of health, wealth, and immigrants of an upper class shows the success of Chinese economic transformation, but their uneven distribution proposes theories to social mobility and worsens structural inequalities. It is further developed the research of empirical indicators and tenets of social stratification of Chinese society, trust in evolution, established social economic hierarchies and tendencies, product that Chinese society is characterized by elites, a growing middle class, vulnerable lower groups such as migrants and informal workers. Chinese social stratification, now shaped by market dynamics, education, location, and policy, still shows deep inequality despite middle class growth. We have to stress that access to key service factors high income groups. There is an urgent need for reforms in education funding, local, rural, healthcare, and housing. Economic process in shifting aspirations from poverty and education in health and stability. The middle class has become a driver of contribution-led growth, but remains highly dependent on poverty, wealth, and exposed to market fluctuations. It is further developed the methods of assessment of state policies and institutional responses to economic inequality. Performed closer analysis of economic inequality across countries, downgradation analysis of GDP growth to the Gini index, performed comprehensive analysis of crisis measures and inequality impact, established that the PRC relies heavily on constitution-based taxation, primarily VAT and special social society contributions. Chinese fiscal and social insurance system has reformed growth, but reliance on VAT, permitted contributions, and uneven control local balance limit redistribution. To reduce inequality and boost consumption, reforms to progressive review, fee and social insurance, and better central local financing and need. The current 5-year plans and prosperity focus offer on reform window. Past fiscal stimuli, but inequality in practice vary. Discrete transfers and job support that more effective than liquidity aid. It is for the first time developed the conceptual model of income redistribution, inclusive growth and regional balance for the PRC, which redistributes income through vertical instruments and horizontal transfers. Insurance inclusive growth through access to employment, human capital, inclusive infrastructure, support for entrepreneurship, innovation, and a great economy. Provides regional balance through fiscal equalization mechanisms, regional development programs, capacity infrastructure, local capacity development, and local interventions, and ensures increased local incomes and access to services, reduce inequality, rural, regional, enhanced fiscal capacity and legitimacy, and sustainable, equitable growth dynamics. It is proved the mechanism for inclusive economic development in the PRC, which include instruments for strengthening social society needs and targeted Wi-Fi programs that in combination with instruments for improving the progressions of the tax system give the way for expanding access to quality education and vocational training, and are focused on the institutional reform from the local system to reduce urban-rural gaps and enhancing participation of vulnerable groups in economic activities. Digital technologies can improve precision and reduce cost, ensuring aid reaches those who need it most. In the light of challenges posed by COVID-19, process and health systems need reform. Additionally, employment insurance and job-linking Wi-Fi must evolve to support gig works and migrate with portable benefits and returning workers. To finance these Wi-Fi initiatives, tax reforms should fund Wi-Fi by shifting vendors to wealthier groups. Moreover, education, local land rights, and local participation are key to rural inequality. It is improved the roadmap for strategic reforms to reduce stratification in Chinese society that addressed short, medium, and long-term policy priorities for the purpose of coordinating regional policy and internal political resource equalization. In the short term, 1 to 3 years, priorities include fiscal redistribution, subsidies, cash transfers for vulnerable groups, job creation for young and migrant, expanded healthcare access, and scholarships for disadvantaged students. Medium-term goals, 3 to 10 years, focus on delimiting structural barriers, lacking broader local reform and inter-provincial fiscal transfers. To close urban-rural gaps, ensuring education equality, healthcare integration, and labor protections in vital for sustainable opportunity distribution, motivated through 5-year plans, long-term reform 10+ years, toward 2035, should aim for consumption-driven, innovation-led economy that prioritizes social equality with aspirations to reduce the Gini coefficient below 0.35 and achieve near parity in urban-rural incomes. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Utsi, for your presentation. Dear colleagues, what questions do you have for the applicant? I would like to inform all of you that according to our procedure, all those who present at the meeting have the rights to ask questions to the applicant. Please, Professor Григорій Монастирський, please welcome.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. Dear Utsi, I have two questions, and my first questions. How does the research elucidate the role of the middle class within China's evolving social stratification framework?
Thank you, Professor Monastirski, for your question. The research provides a comprehensive analysis of middle classes' role in Chinese social stratification, showing it as a proven element that boosts stability and is challenged by countries' rapid economic transformation. The middle class serves as a primary driver of contribution-led growth, against the Pareto sales rebounding and aspirations, extending the quality of life improvements like better education and environmental studies. However, this group remains highly vulnerable to market fluctuation and inequality, as wealth concentration persists among the top 10% of the population, limiting upward mobility and worsening stratification through institutional mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you. I am satisfied. And my second questions. How have economic reforms influenced social stratification in China?
Thank you, Professor Monastirski, for your question. Reformers have made worse rural-urban divides, regional asymmetries, and income gaps as institutional factors like the hukou system limit market opportunities, disparity, overall poverty reduction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Professor Monastyrski, are you satisfied with the
Yes, I'm
answers?
satisfied.
Thank you. Let's go next. Please welcome Professor Alina Жуковська.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. Dear Utsi, thank you for interesting presentation. And I have two questions for you. What core importance form the conceptual model for reducing inequality in the People's Republic of China, and how does the proposed model facilitate scenario projections for economic development?
Thank you, Professor Rugovska, for your question. The model integrates income redistribution, inclusive growth, and regional balance, addressing vertical and horizontal disparities through progressive taxation, job creation, and targeted fiscal transfers by incorporating quantitative indicators like Gini and Palmer results with quantitative aspects such as fairness perceptions. The model enables to create the optimistic baseline and the pessimistic scenarios for policy evolution. Thank you.
And two questions. What is the role of the Hakon system in reparating inequality in China?
Thank you, Professor Rugovska, for your question. The hukou system restricts rural migrants' access to education, healthcare, and Wi-Fi, acting as an institutional barrier that reinforces urban-rural sanctification and limits social mobility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Жуковська, for your questions. I have a question to you. Are you satisfied with the answers for your questions?
Yes, I'm satisfied.
Yeah, thank you. Do you have more questions? Yeah? No?
No.
Okay, dear opponents, maybe you have. Okay, please welcome Professor Ilya Khadjinov.
Hello, thank you for invitation to take part in this defense, and I would like to say thank you to our applicant for the interesting report and the interesting theses. And the first question is, what role do the digital technologies play in the proposed mechanism for inclusive economic development in the PRC, particularly in enhancing the targeting of social safety nets and active labor market policies? And how does this align with long-term goals of ecological sustainability?
Thank you, Professor Hadrino, for your question. Digital technologies are control mechanism scientifically present targeting of social safety nets through data-driven analytics that identify vulnerable groups and optimize benefit distribution. We are also supporting active labor market policies by enabling platforms for vocational training and unemployment insurance administration. This integration and leads with long-term ecological sustainability goals by promoting great digital infrastructures that reduce resource consumption in Wi-Fi delivery, such as paperless systems and AI-optimized resource allocation. Moreover, by expanding person and healthcare systems via digital means, the mechanism ensures broader access for disadvantaged groups, fostering social cohesion and contributing to a sustainable developed model. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. And I have the second question. What causal mechanism connect economic inequity to social stratification?
Thank you, Professor Hadrino, for your question. Mechanisms include access to education, labor market segmentation, spatial segregation, political power, cultural reproduction, and health disparities. And these factors reinforce hierarchical social layers through resource allocation and opportunity barriers. Thank you.
Yes, more questions?
No,
questions?
thank you.
Ilya Vasilyevich, are you satisfied with the answers for your question?
Fully and completely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Elena Valerievna, maybe you have some question?
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to work together in this wonderful expert group. I have some questions. Dear Utsi, tell me please, how does the roadmap of strategic reform delineate short, medium, long-term priorities for diminishing social stratification in the Public Republic of China? And in what manner does it incorporate interregional coordination, international cooperation to amplify reform efficacy?
Thank you, Professor Mladova, for your question. The roadmap delineates short-term priorities as immediate mitigation through targeted subsidies, deployment programs, and basic social service access to evaluate acute inequalities. Medium-term focus on institutional reforms like ecosystem overhaul, interregional equalization, and inclusive education, health enhancements to build structural resilience. While long-term inversions of consumption-oriented economy with strengthened social cohesion and ecological integration for sustained stratification reduction. Incorporates intergenerational coordination by enhancing fiscal transfers and collaborative projects between developed and lagging provinces, ensuring balanced resource allocation and integrated international cooperation through knowledge changed to partnerships, in areas like digital transformation and green policies to benchmark and adapt global best practices. Thank you.
Thanks. And I have no questions. What empirical trends in social mobility are observed in the PRC?
Thank you, Professor Mladov, for your question. Trends show limited mobility with wealth concentrated in the top 10% of the population, as critical barriers and hukou system hinder intergenerational advancement. Thank you.
That's all, no questions. Oh yeah, no? Olena Valerievna, are you satisfied with the answers for your questions?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. I also have two questions to our applicant. Would say thank you very much for great presentation, but there are some points which you should explain for me. My first question is, to what extent does the proposed conceptual model integrate quantitative indicators with qualitative dimensions? And how does this integration facilitate scenario-based forecasting for inequality reduction in the PRC?
Thank you, Professor Zvalic, for your question. The conceptual model integrates quantitative indicators such as the Gini coefficient, poverty ratio, and poverty rate with quantitative dimensions, including perceptions of fairness, social mobility, and institutional trust, creating a multifaceted framework and address both vertical income disparities and horizontal regional imbalances through pillars of redistribution, inclusive growth, and regional balance. Furthermore, the model provides a predictive tool for placing markets to evaluate that efficient of interventions like targeted fiscal transfers and infrastructure projects, ensuring that strategies not only quantify reductions and inequality, but also foster quantitative improvements in social cohesion and equitable opportunity distribution. Thank you.
Okay, and one more question. What key disparities accompany the PRC's economic development?
Thank you, Professor Zvalic, for your question. Regional, East-West, urban-rural, professional, educational, and gender disparities are highlighted as statistical data shows percentage income gaps and marginalization of enhancing modalities. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm satisfied with the answer for my question. Dear colleagues, do the members of our one-time specialized academic council have any other questions to the applicant? No questions. Okay, thank you. You can take place. If no questions, let's move to the next part of our defense procedure, the reviews of reviewers. Now the floor is given to the reviewer, Professor of Management, Public Administration and Personnel Department of West Ukrainian National University, Doctor of Economics, Professor Григорій Монастирський. Please welcome.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. Dear colleagues, economic inequality in the People's Republic of China has become one of the key factors shaping the process of social stratification, particularly under the conditions of rapid economic growth, urbanization, and the market reforms launched in the later 1970s. The country's transitions from a planned to a socialist market economy transformed China into the world's second largest economy. However, this process was accompanied by depending disparities disparities in the distribution of income, wealth, and opportunities. These inequalities are manifested in the significant gap between urban and rural areas, regional imbalances between coastal and inland provinces, as well as class-based differences that determine access to education, healthcare, and social mobility. The research was carried out in accordance with the research plans of the West Ukrainian National University. The qualification thesis is the independently conducted scientific study in which the applicant personally proposed a conceptual model for reducing economic inequality in the PSC. The content and structure of the thesis fully correspond to its title, purpose, and research objectives. The scientific statements are presented consistently and logically, while the conclusions and recommendations are based on the results of the others' research, which have been properly tested and rely on a variety of information sources. The most significant results, which reveal the personal contribution of the applicant to the development of the researched topic and characterize its novelty, consists of the set of interrelated scientific developments and proposals. Familiarization with the content of the dissertation as well as the other's main scientific works allowed the identification of the most important theoretical and methodological positions, conclusions, and recommendations that demonstrate scientific novelty, reflect and others' scientific contribution to solving the research task concerning the study of the impact of economic inequality in the PSC on the formation and transformation of social stratification, the identification of its structure mechanisms and consequences for social stability, as well as the development of strategic recommendations aimed at the reducing inequality and promoting inclusive social economic development. The dissertation provisions which constitute the scientific novelty have been fully presented and discussed at 4 international and national scientific practical conferences. The theoretical research conducted provides a methodological foundation for examining economic inequality, social stratification of the population, and potential political measures aimed at reducing economic disparities. The practical significance lies in the proposals concerning the development of a conceptual model for reducing economic inequality, the elaboration of the mechanism of inclusive economic development. UC qualification thesis is characterized by a coherent, logical, and comparative structure, all sections are interconnected, ensuring and holistic understanding of the research problems and allowing for the evaluation of the other scientific contribution. The scientific results of the dissertation were obtained personal by the author. From the scientific works published individually, only those ideas and provisions that they personally developed by the author have been used in the dissertation. Critical remarks to the dissertation. Dear colleagues, alongside the important scientific achievements of positive evaluation of the content and the formatting of the qualification thesis, it is necessary to note certain remarks and debatable points in particular. First, the study of the institutional determinants of inequality in PIC highlights the effectiveness of the Hukoi system. However, the assessment of the evaluation after the 24th reforms is insufficiently in depth, and the data do not fully reflect the current efforts toward urban integration. This temporal gap may overlook the long-term effects of the system on mobility, integrating lakes varying stints in government policy. Consequently, the institutional analysis appears more static and less relevant to contemporary challenges. Two, the structure determinants of inequality in the PIC are well articulated. However, the analysis does not sufficiently integrate environmental factors such as climate-induced resource disparities affecting rural population in the PIC. This gap reduces the comprehensive view of structural impacts, which is practically relevant given China's vulnerability to environmental challenges. The conclusions drawn from this analysis could have highlighted these interconnectional and strengthening the other's core arguments. Three, the dissertation provides a quality assessment of the PRC's government policy from the perspective of institutionalism, impact on the economic inequality. However, it overlooks the shortcomings and objectives in implementing poverty alleviation programs, in particular the factor of corruption. As a result, the analysis lacks of balanced view regarding the potential overestimation of the effectiveness of government policy. This analysis could be strengthened by including government's indicators for a comprehensive evaluation of institutional barriers. Four, The dissertation develops a conceptual model for reducing economic inequality in the PSC, which is quite innovative. However, it overlooks the role of the private sector in the public-private partnership. As a result, the narrow focus of government initiatives may ignore the synergy of market participants, limiting the practical applicability of the model. Expanding the conceptual model by incorporating hybrid mechanisms could enhance its practical implementation. These remarks are of a discount nature and do not diminish the value of the qualification thesis regarding economic inequality in the PSC as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population. General evaluation of the qualification thesis is complements which established requirements. UC qualification thesis on the topic economic inequality of the PSC as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population. Summative of a degree of Doctor of Philosophy represents a complex independent study containing novel scientific grounds, theoretical and applied results in the field of economic inequality in the PSC as imperative for shaping social stratification. And in terms of scientific novelty, theoretical and practical significance of the results obtained, structure, language, and style of presentation, UC qualification thesis on the topic economic inequality of the PSC as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population meets the requirements on the approval of the procedure for awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and the consolation of the decision of a one-time specialized academic council of a higher education institution, a research institution of awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, and the requirements of the order by Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine on approval of requirements for dissertation design. There are the UC deserves to be awards the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 292, International Economic Relations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Монастирський. I ask the applicant to answer to the reviewer's remarks. Please, Utsi, please.
Thank you, Professor Monastyrski, for your comments. The critique for automating poverty program shortcoming, including corruption and lacking governance indicators, could be explained. Institutional barriers are integrated holistically. Pages 107 to 108 discuss 5-year project in financial sense, noting central local fiscal imbalances and practical Gini reductions despite market force implicitly, addressing corruption via OECD, IMF, renewal sharing critical. Empirical metrics, for example, fiscal transfers, Gini, and comparative cash flow private balancing the evolution, avoiding overestimation through evidence-based contracts. The assertion that the model neglects poverty sector PPPs, limiting applicability, overlooks embedded elements. Private contributions are analyzed early, highlighting 16% GDP from private enterprises and synergies in employment, 18% over jobs, and conception shifts, hybrid mechanism appearing via digital platforms. For example, Alibaba's gig economy and privatization, 95% housing stock completed by comparative reforms. For example, winner names state market coordination. This formulation enhances practicality without explicit expressions. We agree with all other comments. We will take all your comments into account in our future research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Utsi. Is reviewers satisfied with the answers of applicant?
Thank you. I am satisfied. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I have one more question to you, Grigorій Leonardovich. Is it possible to include in the final decision of
Yes.
one-time specialized academic council only those remarks with which the applicant agreed?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We are going next, and now the floor is given to the reviewer, Professor of Management, Public Administration and Personnel Department of West Ukrainian National University, Doctor of Economics, Associate Professor Alina Zhukovska, please.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. Economic inequality in the People's Republic of China has a complex, multidimensional character and is manifest in income difference, access to educational and healthcare, territorial communities, digital skills, and gender differences. This issue is directly connected with questions of social justice, the providing of equal opportunities and sustainable development, and also has a significant importance on social stability and the internal development of China. The dissertation UTSI is a component of the scientific research of West Ukrainian National University and implementation in the international project Erasmus+ Jean Monnet model. The scientific statement, conclusions, and proposal presented in the dissertation are reliable, well-founded, multifaceted, with a consistently importantly research methodology. To achieve the different purposes, the dissertations, there is used a set of research methods, theoretical, historical, empirical, and others, the unity of which made it possible to fulfill all the outlined tasks. In the research proceed general scientific and special methods of scientific knowledge were used. The method of theoretical generalization, the historical method, the method of dialectical cognition, the method of analogous and comparative analysis, the method of inclusion and deduction, and difference method. On my opinion, the most significant scientific results personally obtained by the achieved include The first time developed the conceptual model of income redistribution, inclusive growth and regional balance for the People's Republic of China, which redistribute income through vertical instrument and horizontal transfers, ensure inclusive growth through access to employment, human capital, inclusive infrastructure, supporting for internationalship, innovation and green economy, providing regional balance through fiscal equalization mechanism, regional development programs, connectivity, infrastructure, local capacity development and local intervention, and ensures increased local incomes and access to services, reduced inequality, urban-rural, regional, enhanced fiscal capacity and legitimacy, and sustainable, equitable growth dynamics. Improved the mechanism for inclusive growth development in the People's Republic of China, which includes instrument for straightening social safety needs and targeting welfare programs that combines with instrument for improving the progressiveness of the tax system, gives the ways for expanding access to quality education and vocational training, and are focused on the institutional reform of the hukou system to reduce urban-rural gaps and enhancing participation of vulnerable groups in economic activities. Improves the roadmap of strategic reforms to reduce stratification of Chinese society that addresses short, medium, and long-term policy priorities for the purpose of coordinating regional policy and inter-provincial resources in equalization, which involves digital transformation and small governments to improve source delivery, which contain a system for monitoring and evaluation system for anti-inequality initiatives, which aims at international cooperation and adaptation of best practice in equality reduction. 1 minute. The theoretical significance of the work lies in the systematization and generalization of scientific approaches to the study of economic inequality and social stratification, the identification of its structural mechanism, causes, and consequences, as well as the development of a conceptual framework for modeling inclusive economic development and strategies to reduce social economic disparities. The practical significance of the results of the dissertation is that the main theoretical provisions of the study of economic inequality, social stratification of the population, and ways of policy adjustments, the reducing economic inequality in People's Republic of China can be used in the practical activities of governmental bodies, local authorities, and further scientific developments. UTC qualification, there is an independent, comprehensive, and substantive scientific research. The main provisions and results of the dissertation are presented in each scientific papers with total volume of 2.63 printed sheds, including 3 articles in Ukrainian scientific editions, 1 article in a foreign periodical, and 4 papers of approbation nature. UC dissertation research is constitutions by a high level of analytical elaboration and practical orientation. At the same time, some provisions are subject to discussion and may be the subject of further scientific classification and editors, namely. The dissertation successfully combines macroeconomic indicators such as the dynamics of the Gini coefficient with Hazelhut level microdata. However, at times there is a lack of a clear connection between their levels of analysis. For instance, between national trends and regional disparities in Hazelhut incomes. Furthermore, the focus is primarily on aggregated statistics, which do not always account for informal employment and hidden incomes. Potential limited the assessment of the actual level of economic inequality in the People's Republic of China. Secondly, the authors effectively describes the digital and educational gaps as key factors of inequality, particularly in the context of the HACO system and excess of resources. However, the analysis is mostly qualitative. It would be beneficial to complement the decision with quantitatively calculation using specialized indices such as the digital divide index and the educational Gini to provide a more robust empirical basis for the conclusions regarding social stratification. Internal and external migration is considered as a factor of social mobility and sources of new disparities. However, the conclusions are presented fragmentally without an in-depth analysis of its impact of regional imbalances. Additionally, gender difference in access to education, the labor market, and social protection are insufficiently addressed despite their significant role in shaping social stratification. At 4, the candidate has developed a roadmap of strategic reform aimed at reducing stratification in Chinese society, in which a multi-level timeline is aligned with national plans and is strategically oriented. However, the mechanism of engaged stakeholders in the implementation of their reforms is not clearly defined. Moreover, the impact of the Belt and Road Initiative on population inequality within the framework of Chinese international cooperation is insufficiently explored. The noted comments and points of discussion do not affect the overall high evaluation of UC qualification work and may serve as a basis for scientific debate as well as for the authors' further research in the chosen fields. UC classifications, there is on the topic economic inequality of the People's Republic of China as an imperative for the information of social stratification of the population, submitted for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, represents a complete independent study containing novel, scientifically grounded, theoretical and applied results in the fields of economic inequality in the People's Republic of China as an important for shaping social stratification. The result obtained by the candidate, as well as the proposed new solutions, recommendation and conclusions are reliable and comprehensively substantiated. The dissertation is carried out at a high professional level, and a contact corresponded to the chosen research topic and the profile of specialty 292 international economic relations. In terms of scientific novelty, theoretical and practical significance of the results obtained, structure, language and style of presentation, UTI classification, there is on the topic economic inequality in the People's Republic of China as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population, meets the requirements of on the approval of produce for awarding the degree of Doctors of Philosophy and the cancellation of the dissertation of a one-time specialized academic council of a higher education institution, research institution, and awarding the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, approved by the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministry of Ukraine, dated January 12, 90 and 92, number 44, and the requirements of the Order of Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine on approval of requirements for dissertations design, number 40 of January 20, 20 and 17, with amendments from May 31, 90 and 18. The author UTC deserves to be awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 292 International Economic Relations in the fields of knowledge 28 International Relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alina Yurievna, for your detailed review. Thank you. Now I'm asking the applicant to answer to the reviewer's remarks. Please welcome.
Thank you, Professor Rogovska, for your comments. The comments regarding insufficient linkage between microeconomic indicators and micro-level household debt, including informal employment and hidden incomes, is not substantial. The dissertation integrates this via study scale. Analysis of regional income disparities, for example, East-West Uber-rural, linking national tenders to household social-economic characteristics, incomes, access, labor market segmentation, implicit income prices, informal sectors, wealth concentration in the top 10%, accountants for hidden incomes through comprehensive measures, avoiding aggregation bias. The comment on the many quantitative analysis of digital educational gaps under Hukou, segregating indices like digital demand index and education Gini, overlooks embedded quantitative elements. Hukou's implied education Here's access is empirically supported by indicators for mobility and resource disparities. Functionally equivalent to specialized index, digital technologies' role in addressing gaps is quantified in inclusive models, providing robust stratification conclusions without additional mentors. We agree with all other comments. We will take all your comments into account in our future research. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alina Yurievna, are you satisfied with the answer?
Thank you, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Fully satisfied.
And once more questions, could we use in our final decision only these remarks with which agreed our
Yes.
applicant? Okay, thank you. Dear colleagues, if no additional comments, let's move to the next part of our defense procedure, the reviews of our opponents. And now the floor is given to the official opponent, rector of Donetsk National University, Doctor of Economics, Professor Ilya Khadjinov. Ilya Vasilyevich, thank you for agreeing to be opponent in our one-time specialized council. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your invitation. I would say that the dissertation addresses a highly relevant issue, economic inequality in the PRC and the impact on social stratification. The study's importance is elevated by China's global economic influence and its unique mix of market economy and socialist ideology. The thesis is well structured, employing diverse methods such as regression and cluster analysis to support its conclusions. In theoretical and practical propositions have been recognized in academic publications and conferences. The dissertation consists of 3 chapters, effectively analyzing inequality theories, stratification trends, and policy strategies. It highlights inequality effects on mobility and outlines targeting reforms, including taxation and social support. UTSI qualification work is performed at a high scientific level, but there are some new ideas defined in her thesis. Developed a conceptual model for income redistribution, inclusive growth and the regional balance in the PSC, improved mechanism for inclusive economic development, including welfare programs and access to education, enhanced roadmaps for strategic reforms, addressing stratification at different policy levels, refined methods for evaluating state policies, including cross-country comparisons and regression analysis. Advanced studies on income, wealth inequality, assessing poverty reduction programs and national agendas. Developed new insights into social stratification trends, identifying key social economic groups. Extended conceptual framework to include typologies of various forms of inequality. Elaborated causal mechanism linking inequity to stratification, education, labor market, health, etc. Deepened in understanding of structural institutional drivers, including globalization's role in reshaping inequality. There are some comments that are of a debatable nature. First of all, I would like to say that exploring conceptual and methodological approaches to a study of economic inequality, pages 12-15, the author provides a general conceptual overview, not considering recent achievements in intersectional analysis, in particular the integration of race and ethnicity, the status of migrants, which are specific to different segments of Chinese population. This limits the analysis of the complex effects of multiple dimensions of inequality and simplifies the understanding of their interaction in the formation of social hierarchies. As a result, the methodological tools are somewhat limited when analyzing the unique multicultural context of China. Secondly, the assessment of dynamics and structure of income and wealth inequality in the PRC, pages 65-70, is carried out using reliable statistical data, but does not consider the role of the shadow economy and its weight in the formation of incomes of the high-income population. The exclusion may overstate official inequity metrics as an informal sector significantly contribute to hidden assets. Thirdly, the thesis successfully explores empirical indicators and trends in social stratifications in Chinese society, pages 81-85, but cohort studies should be conducted to track intergenerational mobility in China over recent decades. These limitations does not allow for a full capture of a sustainable nature of stratification, as it does not demonstrate the foundations of inequality in the long term. And lastly, the applicant has developed and detailed a mechanism for inclusive economic development in China, pages 130-140, but has not sufficiently taken into account the risks of technological unemployment from the introduction of artificial intelligence in Chinese labor markets. This shortcoming weakness, to some extent, the sustainability of the mechanism since rapid digitalization displaced vulnerable workers and strategies to mitigate technological shifts would strengthen their position. The above mentioned remarks indicate some debatable aspects in the qualification work. However, overall, they indicate the relevance, complexity, versatility, and practical significance of the chosen topic and do not significantly affect the qualitative characteristics of the dissertation. The qualification work is a completed scientific study, the result of which is in the formation of scientifically based proposals for the development of the theory, methodology, and practical implementation of economic inequity in the PRC as the main imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population. In terms of its contents, the professional focus, the qualification work corresponds to specialty 292, international economic relations, and in terms of the quality and level of theoretical and practical developments to the level of a dissertation for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. In general, the qualification thesis is economic integrity of the PRC as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population meets the requirements of the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, dated 12th of January 2022. And in terms of context, substitution of scientific provisions and recommendation and level of scientific novelty. The author UCI deserves to be awarded the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty 292, International Economic Relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleg Vasilyevich. I ask the applicant to answer the remarks of the official opponent, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Professor Henrino, for your comments. We can explain the comments for excluding the shadow economic rules in high-income formation, potentially overstanding mentors, informal sectors, and synonymous with shadow activities are addressed through labor market stigmatization discussions, noting precarious informal employment for migrants and its contribution to hither aside via lockwick are reported drops. Inequality measures are refined by cross-roasting official Gini with independent estimates, revealing understated wealth concentrations in top 10%. Enhancing trust assurance without direct Chinese household income project, reflected but aligned with salary-based adjustment in Section 2.1. The comment linking cohort studies for intergenerational mobility, limiting long-term stratification, sector overlooks integrated longitudinal elements. Generational cohort analyzed tracking mobility impacts across pay reform, born pre-1970, reform 1975 to 1995, and post-millennial post-2000 groups, highlighting inheritance, opportunity barriers, and poverty transmission. This approach equivalent to Chinese family power studies, modeling 2010 to 2022 in Section 2.2. Provides empirical response to trends, informing Chapter 3, policy implications of sustainable inequality. We agree with all other comments. We will take all your comments into account in our future research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Utsi, for your comments, for your answer for the comments. I have a question to Ilya Vasilyevich. Are you satisfied with the answer to your comments?
Yes, thank you.
And one small question, Ilya Vasilyevich, is it possible to include in the final decision of our one-time specialized academic council only those remarks with which the applicant agreed?
Yes, sure.
Thank you. Now the floor is given to the official opponent, Professor of International Finance Department, Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, Doctor of Economics, Professor Olena Bulatova. Olena Valerievna, thank you very much for your agreeing to be an opponent. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. First of all, I'd like to say some points about the relevance of the topic. The specific nature of China's social order generates a typical model of social stratification that have no analogies among traditional capitalist or socialist system. My colleagues also emphasize this. All these require academic study. That's why UT qualification work constitutes a relevant scholarly research. The qualification thesis has a logical structure. All conclusions and recommendations of the research have practical relevance. The research revealed the multidimensionality of economic inequality. The results highlight the needed effort to build an inclusive economic ecosystem and define the key components of sustainable development strategies. They first time developed the conceptual model of income redistribution, inclusive growth, and regional balance for People Republic of China, improve the mechanism for inclusive economic development. This result defines the scientific knowledge of the dissertation. Every dissertation has discussion points. UT qualification thesis is carried out at a high scientific level. However, there are some remarks of a debatable nature. The dissertation presents a typology of economic inequality covering various dimensions, including income, wealth, regional, global, intergenerational, and gender social. However, the criteria for classification are insufficiently substantive, which may lead to categorical substitution. This shortcoming reduces the analytical precision of the multidimensional phenomenon, since the boundaries between dimensions remain insufficiently delineated, for example, regional and global inequity. As a result, the framework structure may only partial support for the empirical applications. The next point. The study clearly articulates the causal mechanism linking economic inequality with social stratification, such as access to education, labor market segmentation, health disparities, etc. However, they are insufficiently examined through quantitative modeling tools, relying mainly on qualitative relations without econometric validation. As a result, there is a risk of incomplete justification of the role of spatial segregation in sustaining the urban-rural divide. A more detailed analysis could strengthen the evidence base. The thesis effectively presents statistical analysis of income gaps between Eastern and Western region and urban and rural population. However, the study does not address the problem of endogeneity in these disparities, such as reserve causally from migration to regional growth. This methodological gap may affect the quality of interpretation of state strategies, for example, Go West program. The use of instrumental variable methods, in particular for estimating causal relationship, could improve the quality of this interpretation. The applicant developed a roadmap of strategic reform to reduce stratification of Chinese society, covering short, medium, and long-term priorities aligned with the 5-year plan. This is the development of science and technology to ensure common prosperity. However, it insufficiently assesses cybersecurity risk in providing targeted assistance to vulnerable groups. In particular, potential digital divides that reinforce social stratification were overlooked. An integrated assessment of this risk would have balanced the proposed roadmap. The outlined remarks indicate certain debatable aspects of the qualification thesis. However, overall, they confirm the relevance, complexity, multifaceted nature, and practical significance of the chosen topic, and do not significantly affect the qualitative characteristic of the dissertation. General conclusion: OT qualification thesis is a completed scientific research, the result of which is the development of scientifically grounded proposals for advancing theory, methodology, and practical implementation of economic inequality in the PIC, and a key imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population. In this content, as professional focus, the qualification thesis corresponds to specialty international economic relation, and in terms of the quality and level of theoretical and applied developments, to the level of a dissertation for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. Overall, OT dissertation, by its content, level of scientific novelty, substantiation of scientific provisions and recommendations, meets the requirement of the resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine number OT, deserve to be awarded to the degree of Doctor of Philosophy and specialty economical international economic relation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Olena Valerievna, for your systematic review of dissertation. I ask the applicant to answer to the comments of official opponent, please.
Thank you, Professor Bradova, for your comments. The comments on insufficient substation of technology, career, and boundary delineation. Regional with GORB, we can explain as clarifications are graded in theoretical frameworks across sections. The first chapter outlines dimensions: income, wealth, opportunity, regional, global, intergenerational, gender, social, linking to economic theories, classical method with boundaries clarified with examples, regional as international, über-rural, east-west, assurance, global and cross-national. These simples empirical applications, for example, in cluster analysis, ensuring analytical precision without substation. The comment on inadequate quantitative modeling of causal mechanism, spatial segregation in über-rural demand, overlooks integrated empirical elements, mechanisms, education access, labor segmentation, health disparities are validated econometrically. Regression analysis shows negative GDP inequality correlation, where spatial accepted are quantified with where Gini, cell, acnes, index, and regional debt, east-west income gaps, positive evidential based on stratification dynamics. We agree with all other comments. We will take all your comments into account in our future research. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Utsi, for answer for the question, for the comments. I'm just asking Olena Valerievna, are you satisfied with the answers for your comments?
Fully, yes.
Okay, and is it possible, Olena Valerievna, is it possible to include in the final decision of our one-time specialized academic
Yes.
council only those remarks with which the applicant agreed?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. In accordance with the regulations, we proceed to discuss the decision of the council to award the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, in which only members of our one-time specialized academic council are entitled to participate. Dear colleagues, now will be the process of discussion of a decision. Who will start to participate in the discussion process? Please just call your hand and welcome. Who will start? Okay, please, Professor Alina Zhukovska.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. I want to ask that the issue addressed UC dissertation is highly relevant, as under the conditions of accelerated industrialization, digital transformation, and globalization, the deepening disparities in income, access to education, healthcare, and social welfare determine the country's social stability, the peace of inclusive growth, and the prospect of sustainable development. The widening gaps between urban and rural areas, regions, and social groups are reshaping the social stratification of Chinese society, directly influencing both domestic policy in China's international standing. Based on an extensive empirical foundation and systematic analysis, the researcher provided a comprehensive examination of the multidimensional nature of economic inequality, identifies the causal relationship among economic, social, and cultural determinations of stratification, and develops a conceptual model for reducing inequalities that integrated mechanism of income redistribution, inclusive growth, and regional balance. Particularly valuable are the author's proposal of improving the fiscal and taxation system, expanding social transfers, developing digital infrastructure and human capital, and introducing a strategic roadmap of reform aimed at achieving social mobility and achieving the national objective of common prosperity. Thus, the dissertation process a significant theoretical and practical value, offering scientifically grounded instruments for addressing economic inequality as both a domestic and global challenges to China's sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Who will continue, please? Professor Монастирський.
Thank you, Professor Зварич. Dear colleagues, as a reviewer, I had the chance to become acquainted with the dissertation of UC on the topic economic inequality of the PRC as an imperative for the formation of social stratification of the population, which is a thorough and highly relevant scientific study. In particular, I would like to emphasize that the relevance of this topic is determined by the fact that economic inequality in the People's Republic of China is a decisive factor in the transformation of the social structure of the society. The high rates of economic growth achieved by China in recent decades are accompanied by profound social contrasts manifested in the income gap between urban and rural households, between coastal and inland regions, between generations, as well as among social groups restricting their rights due to the Hoku system. In conclusion, it should be emphasized that UC dissertation is a completed, independent, and high-quality scientific research that combines scientific novelty, methodological soundness, and practical significance. The work meets the requirements established for dissertation submitted for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in the specialty International Economic Relations, and its author deserves to be awarded the corresponding academic degree. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Монастирський. Dear opponents, will you continue the decision discussion procedure? Who will? Please welcome Professor Khadjinov.
Dear colleagues, the topic of UC dissertation is of exceptional relevance both for global and Ukrainian academic discourse. Economic inequality is not only a domestic challenge for individual nations, but also a global issue influencing social stability, public policy, migration, and international economic cooperation. The author has thoroughly explored the complex between economic inequality and social stratification within the unique context of the People's Republic of China. The author has developed a conceptual model of income redistribution, proposed strategies for inclusive growth, and improved methods for evaluating inequality-related policies. These contributions are of significant theoretical and practical importance. The research opens up promising avenues for future studies, especially in the field of comparative analysis and model adoption to the other national contexts, including Ukraine. In the post-war recovery period, our country also faces pressing issues of socio-economic disparity, and China's experience can offer valuable insights for designing effective policy responses. Therefore, the results of Wu-Zi's dissertation represent a substantial contribution to the field of international economic relations and fully deserve recognition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ilya Vasilyevich. Olena Valerievna, welcome.
Unfortunately, contemporary social, economic, technological, digital asymmetries increase the stratification of the global economy, national economies. All this complicates the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. In developing countries, historical factors create significant barriers to reducing inequality. Equality limits access to technology and opportunity for its use for the average person and slow down socioeconomic development for humanity. This research reveals the multidimensionality of economic inequality manifested in income, property, regional disparities. Economic asymmetry transforms into social stratification, and the radical changes in the China's economic model have been accompanied by the emergence for fundamentally new form of social differentiation. The current state of economic disparity in China is characterized by indicators that raise concern within the international community. Social processes occurring in this superpower have the potential to influence international economic relations and shape models of global development. Each of us is observing this process now. In conclusion, I can say that the dissertation is very interesting and I will support it.
Thank you very much, Olena Valerievna. Dear colleagues, I would like to participate in our final decision discussion procedure. So today we have the honor to consider the dissertation thesis of graduate students UTC by the topic Economic Inequality in the PRC as imperative for the formation of social certification of the population. This thesis impresses with the depth and comprehensiveness because the author masterfully analyzes the multidimensional nature of inequality processes of clear typology, integrates the classical and modern economic theories, applied empirical indicators such coefficient Gini, such cluster analysis, such regression analysis, and develops an innovative conceptual model for reducing inequality by 2035. This is not just a study, it's a solid contribution to understanding social economic processes in China with, how to say correctly, and emphasis on the role of the Hukou system, regional disparities, and the trade strategies like common prosperity. So the topic is very extremely relevant in the modern world where economic inequality is strengthened by globalization and technological changes, threaten social stability. And for Ukraine, which is facing the challenges of war and recovery, this work or this thesis offers valuable lessons: how to balance GDP growth with social justice, reduce regional gaps, and enhance mobility. So it enriches the global science by revealing the specifics of PRC socialist market economy in the context of international economic relations and can serve the basis of comparative studies. I especially want to praise the graduate students, Uchi, resident of PRC, who, despite the difficult conditions of war in Ukraine, has demonstrated incredible perseverance, dedications to science and intellectual maturity. This is a true example of scientific development and responsibility. I wish Uchi and her research supervisor, Associate Professor Victoria Homotyuk, further successful achievements, new discoveries, and international recognitions. Of course, colleague, I will support the applicant in her scientific development. Thank you. So we can finalize the discussion solution and take it as a basis. And now the floor is given to the applicant of Doctor of Philosophy degree, Wu Qi, for her closing speech. Please.
First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the rector, Professor Oksana Desenuk, for the opportunity to defend my dissertation at West Ukrainian National University, and with Rector for Scientific Research, Miklo Divan, for support. I would like to thank my scientific supervisor, Associate Professor Victoria Gomichuk, for all her help, guidance, and invaluable support, and of the one-time specialized academic council, Professor Roman Zvalic, for his support and constructive advice. To my opponents, Professor Elena Hadzinov and Professor Olena Brodova, for their helpful comments and recommendations. To the reviewers, Professor Grigory Molosininsky and Ishort Professor Elena Rugovska, for their detailed analysis of the dissertation and constructive analysis, and of the professional seminar Associate Professor Tatiana Buchiska, for all her support and assistance, and of the PhD Center Olena Sidorovich, for assistance in preparing all necessary documentation. Finally, my special thanks to my family for their faith in me, support, and love. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Utsi, for such warm words. А зараз, колега, повертаємось до роботи нашої разової спеціалізованої вченої ради. Відповідно до пункту 28 Постанови Кабінету міністрів України номер 44 від 12 січня 2022 року та затвердженого нею порядку присудження ступеня доктора філософії та скасування рішення разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закладу вищої освіти, наукової установи про присудження ступеня доктора філософії, кожен член разової ради відкрито висловлює свою позицію за присвоєння або відмову у присвоєнні ступеня доктора філософії. Хочу зауважити, що наша рада приймає рішення щодо присудження ступеня доктора філософії УЦІ шляхом відкритого голосування, шляхом підняття руки. Зрозуміло, так? Отже, шановні колеги, зараз я ставлю на голосування рішення Спеціалізованої вченої ради ДФ 58 082 083 про присудження ступеня доктора філософії УЦІ. Прошу голосувати. Хто за? 5 членів ради. Проти? Немає. Утримались? Немає. Отже, рішення спеціалізованої вченої ради прийнято одноголосно за. Дякую. Шановні колеги, таким чином, на підставі результатів голосування та прийнятого рішення спеціалізована вчена рада наша присуджує УЦІ ступінь доктора філософії зі спеціальності 292 міжнародні економічні відносини. І я оголошую засідання нашої спеціалізованої разової спеціалізованої вченої ради закритим. Дякую всім за участь.
Дякую.